All right. Good morning. Good morning. It's Tuesday, the 19th of November. We'll begin this time with the swearing in of two new commissioners. Exciting time. We'll have an exchange of chairs and some signing. We'll begin in order of seat. And so, Commissioner Cox. Phone around so that it will pick you up.
Ready? I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida, that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of Okaloosa County Commissioner, on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida, that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of Okaloosa County Commissioner, on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
Nope, you're not. District 5, Drew Palmer.
Yeah. Just wait. It's just. Y'all want to come up and stand with it? Before the meeting started, I want to make sure he was dressed and prepared, so I brought him a pen to pin on him, and I also gave him a little copy of the Constitution, which he's sworn to several times in his military career. But I just want to make sure he had that to keep in his pocket, because sometimes it gets real gray what we do up here, and you like to look back at it. But if you would, I'm going to have you place your left hand on the Bible, and I'm going to get you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Drew Palmer.
I, Drew Palmer.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will support the Constitution and government of the state of Florida.
That I will support the Constitution of the state of Florida.
And the United States of America.
And the United States of America.
That I am duly qualified to hold office under the state constitution.
That I am duly qualified to hold office under the state constitution.
And I will well and faithfully perform.
And I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of an Okaloosa County Commissioner.
The duties of an Okaloosa County Commissioner.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right. Good.
All right.
Good to see you. Grab somebody to take a picture. Good to see you too.
Before you go, Commissioner Ponder, there's a couple of items we need to cover. I'll start, and then Commissioner Ketchel will follow. The last 4 years have been a tremendous time serving together, and your impact uncomparable. Great things have been accomplished. Your diligent work with the youth, the way that you've continued to push forward here in Okaloosa County. What a blessing it is to come out of municipal government in Destin, go into your role at the state, have an impact there. Your sphere of influence continue to get larger for the glory of God, and then you come home exactly what your intentions were, and you were able to fulfill that in a God-honoring way and bring about such a time where where the citizens of Okaloosa County really can be proud of where we live and who we are. And so, so I'd like to present you with this plaque. It's to County Commissioner Mel Ponder for 4 years of dedicated service to the citizens and guests of Okaloosa County, Florida, 2020 to 2024. In God we trust.
Don't leave.
Commissioner Ketchel.
Thank you. So, Commissioner Ponder, it has been one of the greatest privileges of my life to serve with you as a county commissioner. And I do believe that's what everybody, all the county commissioners that have served with you feel the same way. One of the things that my assistant Judy and I have been working on is historic documents. We've been going through a lot of old things that belong, and they've been in the boneyard, so to speak. And we stumbled on a couple of things that we want to pass to you at this moment because we feel they're relevant as a way to honor you and also for your future work as president of Northwest Florida State College. So I'm going to walk around the dais and I'm going to ask Trey Goodwin, Commissioner Goodwin, to come with me to help with this. And if you'll follow me, I'd appreciate it. This is a land map of Destin. And it's the Calhoun subdivision, and we thought we'd present it to you. Now, this doesn't mean you have to keep it if you choose to give it to a museum in Destin or whatever, but you're welcome to take it and keep it and put it on a wall at the college also. And we had it framed and we thought it was something special that belonged to a commissioner from Destin. This one we really thought belonged in the college because it actually commemorates Doolittle Road. So we're going to give you both. Okay, thank you.
Now, Commissioner Ponder, please point out to everyone where your house is. Right down, that's where it is.
Commissioner Ponder, do you want to say a few words? There's a microphone there if you choose.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Morning, everybody. This will be short. Thank you for the honor you've given me and my wife and my family to serve the people of Okaloosa County for the last 13, 14 years. And there's a little bit of a break in there. You've got an amazing, Graham, thank you for your service. Previously, you've got great commissioners sitting behind me that will do amazing things for our community. My time in elected office is effectively over now. And God's got a different assignment for the next season ahead. But I want to thank John for your friendship and kindness, for always believing in me. Lynn, you're a life counselor, not just legal. I appreciate that. Craig and Sheila, thank you for having patience with me as I tried to learn from your great leadership. All the other department heads, thank you for allowing me to be part of your team for the last 4 years. Y'all are a part of an amazing family called to do significant and wonderful things. Commissioner Mixon, Commissioner Goodwin, Commissioner Ketchel, thank you for reaching back and pulling me forward to be a leader alongside you. From here forward, I'll be glad to pray and cheer for you in the days ahead. You're being joined by 2 amazing teammates, Commissioner Cox, Commissioner Palmer. You're joining an amazing group of leaders They're doing tremendous things, transforming, impacting, blessing our county for good and for God. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for raising your hand saying, here I am, Lord, send me. Allison, well, Judy, thank you for teaching me how to say no. It was good. Chelsea, Judy, Dustin, Sam's here somewhere, I think. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be in the fight with y'all every day and to serve with you. Allison, I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. Your family, Mama Sam is here, I think somewhere around here. Mama Sam's in the back. Your family's blessed us beyond measure. Thank you. And tell Hunter the same thing. We're grateful for you. Commissioner Mixon hit it, some of the things, the youth leadership, the exceptional students in transition, the special needs park, the beach access, there's different things like that, but things come and go, commissioners come and go, but relationships will last you forever. And so for me personally, I just want to humbly and honorably thank each of you for allowing me part of your journey. I hope that I hope I'm part of a team that left the county better than we did coming in. And I know the ones behind me will absolutely stay true to the fight to make sure that's done. And so with that, I just want to say thank you. May the Lord bless and keep you in our community and continue to do great things throughout it. You've got great leadership. Ride the way. They're going to continue to do great things. And I'm very grateful for the time I've had to be part of this family. Many blessings. Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it.
We'll take a 5-minute time in between the start of the next meeting. Prior to that, Commissioner Fountain, Commissioner Ponder, and the rest of the commission, let's have a picture with Ed there. And then don't forget you have to sign your documents. So we'll begin the meeting in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Morning there, High Sheriff. And you okay?
You'll start taking your seats. We're going to get started with the meeting. All right. Call to order the meeting of the Okaloosa County Board of County Commissioners for Tuesday, November 19th at 8:30 a.m. We'll begin this morning with an invocation by Senior Pastor Dr. Jonathan Winningham of First Baptist Church of Mary Esther, and then the Pledge of Allegiance by the Herbert Field Honor Guard, the presentation of the colors. We're pleased to have with us today Colonel Patrick Deering, the commander of the 1st Special Operations Wing. If you will, please stand with us.
Let us pray. Thank you, Father God, for the privilege and the honor to be here before you, first of all. Bow before you. In God we trust. Thank you that in these moments I've heard your name invoked many times in the context of gratitude and thanksgiving for the guidance and the wisdom and all the resources to make our county better. Thank you for the resource of people. Thank you for providing leadership, which is an absolute gift to us. Men and women who are willing to make time, submit their attention and gifts and priorities for the advancement and the betterment of our county and of our government. Thank you for our time together. Thank you for these new leaders. We pray for wisdom and guidance upon them. And if they have yet to learn how to depend upon you, may this be a journey for them. Because the context here in this place is to seek you first and foremost for guidance. Again, we thank you for our great country. We continue to pray, as you've admonished us to, for all leaders who are in government, who are serving us, ultimately under your guidance, under your authority. We thank you for those who serve us in military uniform. Thank you for their protection, for leaders. Again, we just thank you for the events of this particular meeting. Pray all things will be done decently and in order, and ultimately pleasing to you. We thank you again, oh God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Reset.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, Mr. Hofstad will come to present employee awards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. What a wonderful morning so far, and we're going to make it even better by recognizing Okaloosa County's most valuable asset, and that's our employees. We do so at certain milestones in their career. We have 3 service awards this morning, ranging from 5 years to 25 years. So when I call your name, please come forward. We have something for you. stand with me and we'll get a group picture afterwards. First, I want to recognize Derek Pounders. Derek is the Physical Security Systems Administrator with IT, and this is his 5-year service award. Next, I'd like to recognize Tucker Cantler. Tucker is a Corrections Lieutenant in the Corrections Department. This is his 20-year service award. And lastly, I'd like to recognize Rob Vandenbroek. Rob is your Road Division Chief. He's the one that makes sure all of our roads are taken care of throughout this county. This is Rob's 25-year service award. And
This time we'll recognize our visitor. Thankful that he was able to come today in his schedule, as busy as it is. Colonel Patrick Daring is the commander of the 1st Special Operations Wing. He's going to provide us with an update to the County Commission and to those of you watching on the status of Hurlburt Field.
Good morning. Well, first of all, I do want to say thank you to Commissioner Mixon for inviting me to do this and inviting the Hurlburt Field Honor Guard. So thank you for the privilege of being here. I also want to thank everybody up here, all the elected officials, our police officers, our sheriff's department, firefighters, the folks who take care of the roads. I am constantly, almost embarrassingly, thanked for my service all the time. And after a while, I feel guilty about it because you don't have to wear a uniform to serve. And so again, for our teachers, our healthcare people, the folks taking care of the roads and the law enforcement, they serve just as much as you and I. And so I do just want to say thank you to everybody who serves. I feel like I owe it to you, to the county, to just say thank you for supporting our airmen. I know you have heard me say this a number of times. There are a lot of places that claim to be military city USA. I know San Antonio claims it. I think San Diego does. There is no community more supportive of our military than the Emerald Coast. That's from Pensacola to Panama City. This is Emerald Coast Military City USA. And so I do want to say thank you. As a reminder, our mission in the 1 Sal, we really serve 2 purposes. Number one, inside AFSOC, we are the special operations component, special operations lead wing for the Air Force. On the special operations side, we're the Air Force component to special operations. And so we really wear 2 different hats. We deploy for the Air Force. We also deploy for SOCOM. At any given point, about 1/3 of our folks are deployed at any given time. At 2:36 this morning, I was on the ramp welcoming home some folks who just came back from deployment on a C-17. They launched off of alert with hours notice. We did not plan for them to deploy, but there was a crisis in the world. They responded and we welcomed them home last night. I have 3 priorities. Number one is the mission has to come first. The mission absolutely has to come first. But we have to take care of our people. We have to take care of our resources. We have to be efficient with our people and our resources and take care of them so we can take care of the mission, but the mission comes first. Number 2 priority is the installation, and that's to make Hurlburt Field a world-class installation. If this is going to be home of the first Special Operations Wing and of AFSOC headquarters and of 23,000 people working, it has to be a world-class base. And so my priority is, number two priority is make Robert Field a world-class installation. Number one, for quality of mission, but number two, for quality of our people, quality of life for our people. The third priority is pathfinding. So inside Special Operations, one of the things we do is we really try to innovate for the Air Force. There are a lot of things that happen first in the Special Operations world before it goes to the conventional Air Force, the conventional forces. And so pathfinding for us is finding more efficient ways to do business. If it saves time, if it saves people, if it saves money, if it keeps our people safer, that is pathfinding. And so those are our three priorities. Something I could use your assistance on, and again, there is no better community that supports our military than this area, but I do ask for your advocacy and support on 4 areas. And I've added the fourth one. The first 3, I think the first couple times we spoke, housing, childcare, and traffic. But I'm adding a fourth one, and that is really the mental health resources for our families. I'm very confident that our uniform members have some fantastic mental health resources. Where I think we're lagging as a community, and this is not just military, I think it's our entire community, is incentivizing and finding the mental health resources for our families. And again, that's not just the military. I think that's all of us who are citizens of Okaloosa County. For housing, as you know, we renovated a significant amount of our housing, built new houses. We do have another section of Live Oak that we're deciding what the future of that is. But what we're seeing for folks who are living out on the economy, they're spending a large percentage of their base pay to subsidize their housing allowance. And so I do continue to want to work with this team as well as the team at Eglin on finding some creative solutions for housing. The second one is childcare. And again, I don't think this is not a military concern. This is a city, county concern. Just finding affordable childcare provisions for our airmen. A lot of our airmen work on shift work. They might work in the middle of the night. Many of them have to launch off alert, again, like the folks who we just welcomed. We are renovating our childcare center. But we do have a lot of gaps for our childcare. And so any incentives that we can offer private corporations or in-home services near the base, that would be highly advantageous. The third thing is traffic. And I know we met many of us at the traffic roundtable, and we've talked a lot about traffic. But traffic for me is not just, in our airmen, it's not just about convenience, it's about readiness. And we had a tragedy back in, I believe, February, March, a fatality that really shut down Highway 98 for about 4 hours. And then on October 22nd, we had some unanticipated construction on Highway 98 just west of our front gate, which essentially shut down Highway 98. We had kids on school buses for 3.5 hours each way. I reached out to FDOT and great teammates there, and I'm really grateful for the teamwork. But we essentially paused construction. And I'm grateful for everybody who reached out and worked with FDOT. But that highlighted the need for an east-west parallel road to Highway 98. I won't speak for Eglin, but we are in very close agreement and consensus with how we think that should look. I know there's a lot of work to be done with Okaloosa County as well as Santa Rosa County, but the traffic issue for me is a readiness issue. And those folks who returned overnight, who launched off alert, when they departed, if there were a traffic jam, we would not have met our timeline for the U.S. military. And I never want to call General Conley and say, sir, the mission failed because of a traffic jam. And so I do ask for everybody's help on that. The fourth piece I already mentioned is just mental health resources. Many of our families have not only deployed, but they're on their 9th, 10th, 15th location, kids moving in and out of schools. It's just really hard to be a military kid and a military dependent. And so I do just ask for, again, continued advocacy for mental health resources. I'll just close with, again, I want to say thank you to the entire team, everybody who serves. I want to say congratulations to the new commissioners, and I'm grateful and blessed to be a part of this community. Thank you. Commissioner Ketchel?
I want to thank you for being here. As you know, I've been part of that roundtable for a year and I'm very frustrated by the lack of results and we really need to work forward on that. And the recent water break and what we had out there really showed that. I don't know if you even know, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, very aware that we don't have the resources we need in Florida, not just here, but in Florida. And that is something we've advocated for. And Commissioner Ponder and I and Representative Maney worked to get the mental health diversion program here, one of 3 in the state of Florida, which has been hugely successful because we divert many of those who would otherwise sit in jail to mental health services. Thirdly, you also probably don't know this, but I have a great love for Hobart because my husband grew up there for 23 years, long before it was the special ops that it is now. So he's very fond of that base as well. And we, all of us, I think up here are committed to work on housing, mental health, childcare. I can certainly help with that. And we can discuss that offline. So thank you very much. We just, as you know, we really worked hard to get childcare for Eglin. So that's something. There's money in the federal budget. If we can expand that, I would be glad to work with you to advocate for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Colonel Deere, the reason why you recognize the Emerald Coast that way is because of the level of partnerships that we have. It wouldn't exist to be that style of community
Yes,
if
sir.
we didn't have the partnership on both sides. So
Yes,
thank you
sir.
for the work you're doing. Glad you're back here at Hurlburt. Look forward to seeing what the next season brings in your tenure and then beyond.
Yes,
So
sir.
thank you so much.
Thank you for the
today.
invitation.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hofstad, County Administrator's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. First, on behalf of our 1,000+ employees here in Okaloosa County, welcome Commissioner Palmer, Commissioner Cox. We are extremely proud to have you on this team and giving us guidance and direction going forward and keeping the great work going that we've had going for the last decade here in Okaloosa County. So welcome on behalf of our employees. And lastly, I just want to mention to the board, our December meeting, December 3rd, as you know, traditionally we take off the second meeting in December. So that's our only meeting. So I just wanted to make the board aware, December 3rd, our meeting for December to close out the calendar year. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Are you implying to be ready to stay the day?
I'm doing my best to keep the agenda as light as possible, but no promises are made there.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hoshihara, the County Attorney's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no updates, but welcome to the new commissioners.
Clerk Peacock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to welcome the new commissioners and the new look of the board. I think we'll do great work and continue the good work as a testament to Colonel Diggerig's work with us. We are a big community here on both military, local cities. We've got the mayor from Crestview here, and we have in the last 10 years for sure, we have been a really good team partnership of all the different agencies and entities here. And so I just look forward to continuing that work as I sell off into the sunset as well. So thanks, sir.
Sure. At this time, I have just a few speaker cards. If you have a desire to speak during public comment, we will have a second go at public comment at the end of the agenda. Please see Mr. Tomachek in the corner for a speaker card. You'll have up to 3 minutes to cover any issue that you choose. We'll begin with Mayor J.B. Witten from the city of Crestview.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak. 3 minutes. Okay, I'll try. You know, I was at a breakfast over the weekend, and one of the pastors was lamenting about the fact that it seems like we go from Halloween to Christmas, and we forget about Thanksgiving in the middle. So I thought it'd be appropriate for me to come here this morning, and on behalf of my city, thank you for everything you do. The relationship between the county and the city is fantastic. And so I missed the boat a couple of times now. I wanted to be here when Commissioner Boyles was here, and y'all moved the meeting in Crestview, and I didn't read my email or whatever, and so I missed that. But I want to say goodbye to Commissioner Boyles. He did a great job representing us. I actually have known him close to 15 years that I've lived here. I actually hired him as an HOA attorney back in the day, and so I've known him, and he's been very supportive of everything we do in Crestview. And Commissioner Ponder, there's just not a greater individual around. He's always taking care of everything we need. And so I hate to say farewell to them, but they've done a great job, and you know, Commissioner Pond has moved on, so he will still be supporting our community. And I definitely want to give thanks to our new commissioners, Drew Palmer and Sherry Cox. I met with both of you, and I know we're going to be in good hands. The only thing I would ask of the county commissioners, I don't know how you do it compared to the city, whether you appoint somebody or elect somebody, but Commissioner Bowles had 3 positions that affect me, councils I'm on, the CRA. I don't know if someone just glides into that where you have to appoint somebody else, but we don't need a representative on the CRA in Crestview, the ECRC and the TPO, all boards that I'm on that I share with Commissioner Boyle. So if you would keep that in mind, I appreciate that. I want to thank Commissioner Paul Mixon for last night. He came in to the city council meeting and swore in 2 other incoming city councilmen and myself. And I'll take full responsibility for the glitch. The buck stops here. Okay, but I appreciate you being there. Thank you so much for doing that. And then I really wanted to thank Tyrone Parker. I'm sure he's here in the audience. Last month, we had 27 people from France, and I needed transportation to get them to certain events that we had. And Tyrone took care of it, not just in a great manner, but in a fantastic manner. I mean, stop and think about it. We had 21 students who didn't speak English, 6 adults, some a little bit of English, a little bit, you know, come see, come saw. So for them to be there and herd all those people, and I was helping them herd them. Somebody says they're like herding cats. No, a little bit worse, because they don't always understand exactly what you want, but they did a great job for us. I appreciate what they do. They've done it in the past, and hopefully they can do it again in the future. And again, thank you for the great relationship between the county and my city. And God bless each and every one of you. Sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Carol Antoon.
One of these fell out in my car. Good morning. My name is Carol Antoon, and I'm with Safe Connections. This is our finance manager, Shannon O'Connors, and we wanted to just take a minute to welcome the new commissioners, Palmer and Cox, and kind of introduce you to what we do at Safe Connections. We've been here since 1997, and we provide supervised visitation, monitored exchanges, and parenting classes. In the past year alone, we supported 136 families, 244 children, and provided 1,833 of those services. We are also on the agenda today for the approval, hopefully, of the Ed Byrne funds, and we wanted to say thank you guys very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations on new seats.
Lane Watkins.
Morning. My name's Lane Watkins. I live at 6087 Bud Moulton Road. Please include a statement in the public record of the meeting. Today on the agenda is a presentation by Mrs. Fitzgerald and Mr. Hofstad of the county's 2025 state legislative priorities. Please carefully review the item on that list. Last but not least, asking for a badly needed amendment to the Burt Harris Act. Could not be a more timely topic. This legislative session may offer an opportunity for meaningful amendment to the act because the entire state is in an uproar over the disenfranchising of local governments and communities. As an illustration of how counties are responding to protect their growth policies, Hillsborough, Marion, Seminole, and Orange are just 4 counties that have strong rural protections in place, and Seminole and Orange voters on November 5th voted to strengthen those protections and add the requirement for a supermajority of the commissioners to increase density in these areas. In addition, to be blunt, extreme Burt Harris advocate Senator Pasadomo is no longer Senate president, and so one obstacle against us is removed, although we have to get bills through her Rules Committee. I've discussed this with Florida State Representative Maney and Rudman, as well as provided written input for their legislative agenda. I forwarded this information to Senator Gates. I look forward to working with the county to develop a meaningful bill on this topic and help it become law in the 2025 session. Now, with Bert on our mind, I'm hoping you've watched the 1,000 Friends of Florida Bert Harris webinar by 3 attorneys practicing in the Bert Harris environment, explaining some of the myths of that act. Again, this could not be more timely for our county. If you haven't watched it, I've included instructions to the webinar in an email I sent to each of you. The opening statement by lead presenter, Land Use Attorney Richard Grosso, sets the tone. It's my key initial premise and message that the Bert Harris Act has played a much larger role at the policy level in the decision-making level than it has in the courts. At least in my experience, it's been used way more frequently as a threat, as leverage for developers and landowners to get the votes for the approvals for things they want. And it has often been invoked in situations or threatened in situations where it was not even close to being a Bert Harris Act violation. Please understand that these attorneys are what these attorneys are telling you, because we have a North Okaloosa planning study that provides realistic recommendations, and we hope to be discussing them very soon without Bert looking over our shoulder. We look forward to partnering with the county on implementing these recommendations. Thank you.
You have no more speaker cards. If you would like to speak, you'll be recognized at the second option of that as soon as the speaker card is completed and turned in. We'll move to the consent agenda. Commissioners?
I'd like to pull number 1, please. With that, I'll make a motion, if I don't hear any others, that we move the consent agenda -1.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchel.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Palmer. It probably won't be the last time. Please forgive me.
Palmer, Ponder.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify with aye.
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 It passes unanimously. Commissioner Ketchel.
Thank you. This is there anybody here to receive this Farm City Week proclamation? Okay, good. I'll read it and then we'll make a motion to pass it, and then you can come up for a photo op, and maybe you'd like to say something as well. So this is a proclamation designating November 20th through the 27th as Farm City Week, whereas Florida farmers and ranchers help feed the world by producing a bounty of nutritious foods. To do this, they rely on essential partnerships with urban and rural communities to supply, sell, and deliver finished products to consumers across Florida and around the globe. And whereas rural and urban communities working together have built our nation's rich agricultural resources so that they contribute to the health and well-being of our county and the strength of our economy. And whereas during National Farm Week, we recognize the importance of this cooperative network. Agriculture and related enterprises employ more than 2 million workers, including farmers and ranchers, shippers, processors, marketers, retailers, inspectors, and others who contribute an annual impact of $146 billion to Florida's economy. And whereas they perform their daily work, farmers and ranchers preserve freshwater recharge areas, wildlife habitat, and green space. Consumers help farm families maintain their superior natural resource conservation practices by purchasing Florida's agricultural products. And whereas Farm City Week activities celebrate the mutually beneficial relationships that support the quality of life we all enjoy. Next week, as we gather with family and friends around the Thanksgiving table, we count these relationships among our many blessings. And whereas we commend the many Floridians whose hard work and ingenuity provide us with food abundance and reflect the true spirit of our state and nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Okaloosa County Board of County Commissioners that we do hereby proclaim and recognize the week of November 20th through the 27th, 2024 as Farm City Week. And we call upon all citizens to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements of all those working together to produce and supply our community, our nation, and the world with an abundance of agricultural products. And that I'm a big proponent of organic produce. I belong to an organic food co-op, and most of the food that I receive is either local or from organic farmers. Also, as we consider what to do with the land north of the Shoal River, we must understand that this is agricultural area and how important these small farmers are to our lifelong ability to live and to work in this area. And finally, I would just like to say, as a person who is descended from farmers, who started this country in the 1600s as farmers, how important agricultural is. If we think we can depend on foreign governments to feed us, that is a huge mistake. So with that, I'd like to move a motion to pass this.
A motion by Commissioner Ketchel. Second by Commissioner Cox. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you. Do we have an actual proclamation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So if you come up, want to say anything in the mic, or do you just want to have a photo opportunity? Okay.
So, a little bit to your, there you go. Great. Okay, and looks great, everybody. Here we go. 3 pictures. 1, 2, 3. Again, 1, 2, 3. One more time. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Ms. Fitzgerald.
Good morning, Commissioners. Welcome Commissioner Cox and Commissioner Palmer. Each year, we ask you to consider a slate of legislative priorities and appropriations requests in anticipation of the start of the Florida legislative session. The program in your packet is largely representative of last year's program with a few exceptions. I will highlight those key changes and will be available to answer any questions you may have. Specific to the first section of your program, which represents your legislative priorities, there are 3 newly added priorities, 2 of which address affordable housing, and the final is related to the Burt-Harris Act, as Mr. Watkins referenced. The 2 related to affordable housing are recommended strategies from the county's Attainable Workforce Housing Strategic Plan, and they've been specifically added to request flexibility to existing affordable housing state statutes and codes that do not currently permit such flexibility that can result in the development of more attainable housing. The third relates to a request that the legislature consider amending the Burt-Harris Act in such a way that alleviates the threat of litigation to local governments related to managing growth and development. There are a couple that may be slightly amended prior to the final version of this program, including the Baker Act and Marchment Act overhaul. We'll be working closely with Rep. Maney to ensure that the final verbiage reflects the work that he is trying to do to better improve those policies. And also, we are working to amend the $2 court filing fee for court services to specifically recommend an amount that the legislature consider to bring those revenues more in line with IT expenses. Before I go into the next section, which is appropriations request, do you have any questions specific to any of those legislative priorities? Okay, I'll go on.
Hold on, Ms. Fitzgerald.
Sure.
Commissioner Goodwin?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how you want to take this up, if you want to address these, in separate blocks, or if I should hold my question.
If it's appropriate, we can take them in separate blocks.
Okay, so I've got a couple questions on the legislative priorities issue. And one of these, Mr. Chairman, you may have more insight on this one because I know I know you're very engaged with our affordable housing or attainable housing committees, but within the proposed amendment to the state housing strategy, and within that paragraph, I see several things that kind of look like they make a lot of sense. But I did have a question about the extension of the additional homestead exemption for low-income seniors that's currently capped at $50,000 to all income eligible households. I don't know how much traction that actually has a chance of getting. But I just wondered if we have any idea of what kind of a financial impact that would have if it were implemented, one, to Okaloosa County in general, and then two, to how far reaching we think that impact would be with affected folks. And the reason I ask, I mean, we do provide different, in the state of Florida, different tax, benefits or tax breaks on homestead property, and they're sliding scale. I know some, depending on military service, disability, and some based on obviously low-income seniors, which I think is an embrace group. But I just wondered kind of if we've evaluated how that works, because you always begs the question. If you are going to give someone else a tax break, are you going to then place the burden on somebody else to shore it up? How are you going to do that? So if you could kind of extrapolate on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And admittedly, I don't have that level of detail that you're asking for. I do know within Okaloosa County, because we have a significantly less amount of homesteaded properties than other counties, whether it's for, investment properties or the influx of the military that own homes here that don't live here. But in general, anytime that you impact things related to the Save Our Homes and exemptions, it impacts us less here in Okaloosa County. But certainly understanding that is an issue that warrants more research, we can certainly kind of come back to this board on that topic, or just strike that provision entirely if that's something that you don't have a comfort level with today.
And I'm not necessarily advocating to strike it at this point, but maybe, if it survives through today, but before we go to, our legislative delegation meeting and get further in the process, maybe if we could try to gather some of that information just to better understand what would the impact be here locally, that would at least be helpful to me.
Yeah, sure.
And then the other legislative item I had a question about. And a little bit of, I guess a little bit of pause, to this, the Burt Harris Act, I guess my question is is our goal to try and have the state backtrack on the reach of the Burt Harris Act so that we can implement new restrictions on property? Or is there a concern that we need to, or that we're not allowed to keep the restrictions we have and we need to back off Burt Harris? Because I think there's a big fundamental difference between whether or not you're looking at reducing vested rights, which would, I think, loosely called downzoning, versus freezing or having additional protections in place before you allow new density that wasn't previously allowed. And so I think those are two different things. My understanding, and Ms. O'Shara may be able to speak to this, my understanding is Burt Harris largely was targeting, in a very loose way, but I'm not getting down into the details of it necessarily, but in a very loose way, it's more focused on protecting against downzoning than it is on stopping local or forcing local governments to agree to zoning changes that increase density. Am I understanding that right?
That's true, but it also over the years has been used not so much in changing any zoning, but if a property currently has rights to build up to a certain amount, anything the board does, that any action the board takes that affects those rights could potentially pose liability to the county for a Burt Harris claim. So even without a zoning change, if someone has a right to build, and whether that's height or density, and the board approves something less than what they're currently allowed under the code and comp plan.
Okay, and I think I understand what you're saying. And so just want to make sure that I've got it straight. It's not as much about that it is forcing us to approve future land use map changes that are going to increase density. It's really more about us disapproving allowable use up to allowable maximum densities that already exist on somebody's property.
That's correct.
See, and for that one, that causes me, a little bit of concern. Not that there aren't tweaks to that law that could be made, but I think we have to be very careful with that. And I don't know if Okaloosa really needs to focus leading on its legislative priorities with a request that you could argue says that we're asking the state to give us more power to downzone people. I'm not sure if that is really where Okaloosa is. I think where Okaloosa really probably is more in a place of let's be cautious about adding densities where it doesn't already exist. But I'm not sure I want to get into the game of downzoning property. That is a very dangerous thing. And not that we would be able to do that anyway, because regardless of Burt Harris, you've got inverse condemnation. I mean, you've got a whole body of law that already exists outside of Burt Harris. But what are we saying as a public body if we ask to change it for the purpose that it kind of sounds like to me that means we want the state to get out of the way so that we can further restrict already existing rights. And I think that's a very different conversation than, hey, state, let us have our flexibility when somebody asks to increase more than they already have. Let us have the tools we need to maybe temper that back. And I think that's really where our success in future growth is going to come from. So I'm not 100% comfortable with it being on the legislative priorities. I am very comfortable with having this continued discussion and dialogue about how we move forward on our own land development code under existing law and put additional protections in place. But I think they're two different things, and I don't want to go down the wrong path. And frankly, I think if we embrace a perspective that even has the appearance of we're going on the track of downzoning, we're not going to have the community-wide support we need to really get where we need to, I think, in making those proper changes to our land development code. That's kind of where I am. So I would advocate, let's take it off. Let's keep the conversation at the county level, and let's keep working on our own land development code. So, and I guess I'll make that as a motion that we take Burt Harris off of this, understanding we're still going to be working on within existing law our own land development code.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah. Further discussion.
If I may, and the idea, and there's no language that's been crafted, but it was more of at least this initial step was to determine whether this was something the board wanted to move forward and consider. There are many different ways to accomplish what this summary states. For example, over the years since Burt Harris Act was initially adopted, there have been amendments here recently that have made it more pro-property owner, anti-local governments. And by that, I mean more procedural requirements in terms of, how much notice property owners have to give, how the timeline, the time period in which local governments can be on the hook for attorney's fees. And so there are a lot of local government unfriendly amendments that have been made to that act. So one option could be to scale some of those back to the original language. So this doesn't necessarily say, doesn't determine that the board's moving forward with any sort of down zoning. Any language would be crafted and discussed, brought to the board for tweaking and input from the commissioners.
So Ms. Oshihara is it okay if I respond? Ms. Oshihara has made great notable points. Florida does have a great sunshine law, so we haven't been able to talk about this ahead of time. But this does come with much discussion and initiation from some members of our local delegation. And it may be something that needs to be addressed, at least to see a better operating procedure that gives us more leverage as a local government to be able to make decisions on both sides of that fence, unfortunately, but to be able to move in a direction that gives us the clarity, and also potentially there's some case law issues that may be implementing things that didn't come from the original intention, but have begun to move. And so I would caution the action that we make in haste. Maybe we should take some time to go over it before the December meeting so that we're able to come back together.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd be comfortable to readdress it at that point. I just don't want to, I'm not ready to approve it today, is I guess what I'm saying.
If it's okay, let's, wait, there's a motion and a second on the floor.
I'd be okay, withdrawing my motion with the understanding we'll readdress this in December.
Okay. That'd be.
And I'll do the same, understanding that you have two commissioners that are very cautious about this, and we do not want in any way to hurt landowners in Okaloosa County. And I don't think we should be taking the lead on this. I don't care who in the delegation asks us to do this. I'm not for this.
If during the course of that time, I'm sure staff will continue to work that and maybe see what some of the reasonings are so that we can see if those are actually the things that we're working on. In addition, what I would suggest is we continue with the presentation, finish the other items, and then we'll come back in December for action.
Yes, and I'll definitely work with Ms. Hoshihara and get with each of you commissioners to see if there's any consensus on what revisions we might want to put forward. So 7 of the 10 appropriations requests are carry forwards from the past session with updates as appropriate to reflect project status changes and any changes in estimated cost or match information. Newly added appropriations requests have been presented from the Water and Sewer Department and from the Tourism Department related to the SS United States Artificial Reef projects. Those new projects are described on pages 10 and 11 of your program. Also, I should note that specific to the State Road 85 widening project, this is not a traditional appropriations request. Rather, it is a request to ask for legislative support related to Strategic Intermodal System or SIS funding. And since many of these projects on your list are transportation or drainage related, I will ask if you do have specific questions about those, Mr. Autry is available to answer any questions that you might have. So today's ask is if you have a comfort level with the proposed program, we can certainly approve it, or, alternately with your feedback, we can continue to refine the program and bring it back to you at the December 3rd meeting. The timing for trying to get this approved by December 3rd is the Okaloosa County delegation meeting is scheduled to be held later in December, and with there only being one December meeting, to the extent that we can have a program that is supported by this board is super helpful in advance of that delegation meeting.
Chairman. Ms. Fitzgerald and Mr. Autry, thank you for the work that you've done. I know this takes a lot of work to put this together each year. I have one remaining question on the boat, which, is being brought down from Philadelphia. I see that we're asking the legislature for a $1.5 million. If we're not able to get that, do we have an alternative plan?
If it's okay, I might let Mr. Coffey field the answer to that one.
We're still in the process of pulling as many grants and funding sources together, and some are working out, some are not. So obviously this is the biggest, largest artificial reef in the state of Florida. And we think it's statewide significance. So that's why we threw our hat in the ring for that. We are obtaining another grant potentially from the Fish and Wildlife Foundation, the state foundation. But in the case of like the Riscany, when they applied for that, they tapped every funding source they could, and the state paid the majority of that. I think at the end of the day, Escambia County only paid like $1 million for a $20 million project. So we put our name in the ring. But if you don't feel like it competes with other priorities, I had a conversation with another commissioner. We're okay with whatever the preference of the board is. We'll work through it.
Well, we just have so many priorities with roads and other projects.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't be the one to speak on it. As you know, it was a 4-1 vote because I didn't see the need for this large boat to be put into the Gulf of Mexico. But, maybe some of the other commissioners have a feeling about that. On the good side of my thoughts on this is that if we do get some other funding, it won't cost $10 million. So that's what you're trying to say, that you're
That's
throwing
correct.
a wide
Yeah.
net.
And economically, it's going to obviously be a big economic engine for our community.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the appropriations issues, and I guess I'll go ahead and start with the one about the SS United States, since Commissioner Ketchel brought that one up. And I have some concern about that too, being on the appropriations request. And of course, as everyone's aware, I voted in support of moving forward with the SS United States artificial reef project. From a policy perspective and a tourism development perspective, I think it's a good thing. However, I also have concern that that it could be viewed as competing for other appropriations requests. And so I guess, if there were a world where we got 1.5 million in state funding for the SS United States, and then we're told, you're going to have to wait another year or two on your stormwater or road project because we gave you money for your boat, that would not be considered a win in my book. That would be counterproductive to our core mission, which is stormwater, roads, public safety. Put another way, I'm happy to do the boat. I'm looking at Jennifer, but you got to pay for it. And so I can't take it away from our more general fund-esque core government function. So personally, I support the project. I think it's great. I think it's going to be really cool when it's done. It's a long road to get there, but I think we'll get there. But I'd rather not be competing with some of the other things on the priorities list. That's just my perspective on that one. Of course, other commissioners may view it differently, and so it's not a hill I need to die on about getting it off the list, but that's my thoughts. Going on to my other questions about the appropriations requests, we have them categorized. And what I want to understand are those categories. So we've got stormwater and drainage, health, mental health, social services, transportation, and environmental resiliency, tourism, and economic development. Are those categories just for our own organization, or do they have some meaning when we label them that way and we're asking?
That's really just something that I did to kind of help organize the program itself. Certainly within the different appropriation pathways at the state, that there are certain committees. I believe they align with those to a great extent, but they're not necessarily prioritized in any manner, if that's your question.
Okay. The reason I'm asking for that is sometimes the labels might matter. It just by way of illustration, several years ago, I had been really working on trying to get a stormwater project, and finally I was able to talk to some, people who would know, I guess, if you will, within the Tallahassee infrastructure. And they said, well, you keep asking for this, but we gave you 2 million here, 3 million here, for your water and sewer department. So you got a water project. I'm like, well, wait. That's an enterprise fund doing water and sewer, sanitary sewer. I'm talking about stormwater management that comes out of my general fund, public works department. And they're like, well, they're viewed as interchangeable. Well, I didn't realize the way we were asking, we were hurting ourselves on getting general fund help by getting help for our enterprise fund, which is, it's taken a while, but I finally figured out you don't usually want to do that. So that's the only reason I'm asking about that, because there's a couple of these that I think might be better put in other pots. For instance, the Pequito area water and sewer infrastructure, great project. It's under environmental resiliency and water quality, but it's really probably an economic development project, in my opinion. It's a great project, but but I don't view that as, one of our environmental projects necessarily. And then there's a couple others that probably check additional boxes. And then I guess really the question is, where do they, which box do they best fit in to get the highest chance of being, viewed favorably? So there's two, they happen to be in my district, but they actually, well, one of them is certainly in my district, but impacts multiple districts. The other includes my district and probably every single district. So the Gap Creek Channel Inventory and Planning Study, that covers city and county area. It is in District 4, but believe me, Gap Creek affects District 2 and District 5 as well, for sure. It's under stormwater and drainage. It's just as equally an environmental and water quality project as well. And I don't know, and I'd be willing to, or would love to hear your thoughts, Ms. Fitzgerald, on, which category it has the best chance of getting through on. The same for the coastal stormwater retrofit program. Again, that's not just my district, that's multiple districts, maybe all the districts, where we can upfit the current stormwater facilities. Yes, it does have to do with stormwater and drainage and flooding mitigation, but it's just as much an environmental project and a water quality project. So I don't know, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what gets more traction, clean water and environmental, or stormwater flood mitigation?
That's a big question. Well, I'll just say that whenever we go to complete the appropriations forms, it asks us to list the appropriate state department, whether it's FDOT for transportation or DEP for water quality. And so to the extent that our staff members have worked on similar projects, they generally will know, okay, DEP is the appropriate party to put in this project for, because they would be the likely agency that would fund such a thing. So if that helps in any way understand the differentiation between the way that this program is organized versus how it actually gets submitted. And then at some level, the state, in terms of determining, what gets funded, we've heard a lot about this, the state saying things like, well, we've established these, water project grant programs, and our preference is for counties to pursue those types of projects through established mechanisms rather than seeking appropriations. So I would say the answer is somewhat complicated. I don't necessarily know that, other than to say things like resilience are a really big priority of our government, and water quality. I think those things typically, I would say, would rise to the top, as well as transportation. Probably more so your just your simple water projects like water and sewer, or even water qualities to some extent. I think they would rather see go through the typical grant processes. So I think at staff level, we certainly know which projects may have more support with our delegation than others. In terms of prioritization, generally the way that we've handled that is the chairman of the BCC, given that they are more than likely the ones to visit our delegation in Tallahassee. To a certain extent, we at times defer to the chairman to determine that priority order, if that makes sense. I know I'm rambling at this point, but I hope I've answered your question a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. If I'm interpreting correctly, the answer is these things can potentially fit in multiple buckets, and we don't really know which one's going to get the most attention. And so there may be really nothing to do as far as changing the labeling on the draft you've created, because I know you put a lot of work into that. I'm okay with it. If nothing else, I just wanted to highlight the issue that some of these may really cross-pollinate to other categories, maybe categories that might even be, give them a better chance of getting through. But otherwise, other than my comments on the, SS United States, and again, I love the project, just don't want to burn our ask on it. Otherwise, I'm very, happy with the list you put together. So that's all my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I might, and the commissioner hits on some key points, and, we've been engaged in this process for a lot of years. And, at some point, we've got to test the winds of the legislature and see what the priorities are of the legislature. And in those years when there was an environmental focus, we get funding for environmental projects. Transportation, we haven't had a lot of luck with that, but I will say, given this board's adoption and the voters' adoption of a local option surtax, we've been able to take dollars. Jason's been able to take dollars, leverage them through our local DOT district office and get projects advanced that were not even on the TPO long range list. So I think you're seeing the benefit of those state dollars flow into this county to advance some transportation projects, whereby we may not have been so successful with the legislative priorities ask. We have been very successful working those issues with the agency. But we have seen over time, there has been a focus on those water quality projects, and we've been successful in getting dollars for those projects in the past. I am absolutely on board with what you're saying. When it comes right down to it, I would much rather see the legislature come forward with dollars for projects that impact our general fund versus dollars for projects where I've got a healthy enterprise fund. So, but that's why we try and engage as much as possible with our lobbyists, with our legislative delegation beforehand to see, what those legislative wins are, and we try and tailor those projects to meet those areas of funding. And that's just that's a process we go through each year when we put this list together.
Mr. Ketchel.
So I have a couple comments. Mr. Autry and I sat through an agonizing year with the roundtable at Hurlburt to try to figure out roads and the situation with roads. And I'm just saying this really for the benefit of the new commissioners and for everybody else for that matter. The TPO will be taking a look at this, I'm sure, but the issue, there was two paths forward to help get our military men and women who live off base on base when it's not a planned event. So when an emergency happens worldwide, they have to get to work. One was to put another road through Eglin Air Force Base, and that's not looking real promising. And the other is to widen 98, and that we're going to have to deal with. Because if we want to help these men and women get to work, there's got to be a path. And I don't know whether we put in a fund of what do you call it? A fast lane, fast lane like they do in South Florida, something like that. I mean, that if you're a military person and you're trying to get to work, you got to get there. So that's one possibility, I guess. And then the other is, Representative Maney can't be a better advocate for mental health. I mean, his work on the Baker Act changed the face of the Baker Act, which badly needed to be overhauled. So I'm saying, if anything, we could increase our ask for the mental health diversion program. We just heard this officer, the colonel at the base, talk about how important mental health is. I mean, we can't do enough for mental health. We've got a high suicide rate in the military that's not spoken of very often. We have families that are suffering. These men and women come back from many, many deployments. So we need more alcohol and substance abuse counselors, post-traumatic stress. So, I mean, if we can up our ask for the mental health diversion program, I think that's a good thing.
Ms. Fitzgerald.
So certainly hear the comments that you've made, and Commissioner Goodwin, I appreciate your thoughts on that these could fit in multiple buckets, and I'm already like brainstorming about how we could kind of visually show that, right, to help better demonstrate how these fit into those different buckets. And so I appreciate that. Certainly am happy to continue to work the program. I know Commissioner Cox and Commissioner Palmer are brand new to their jobs today, and they may want to sit down with me and talk through some of these, or perhaps have additional ideas. So, if y'all are comfortable, we can certainly just, table this, and I can bring you back a final version on December 3rd, if that is your preference. Or, if you want to provide me any specific direction, we can maybe prove an interim version, however you'd like to handle it.
I think we just come back on the 3rd and move for total approval. Is that consensus? Okay. Thank you. Kelly Bird.
The
drug-free workplace policy and our HR policy manual contains separate policies that govern both the federal and state defined drug-free workplace programs. We want to make sure that we're compliant with the Drug-Free Workplace Act, Florida's Workers' Compensation Law, DOT's Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration requirements, and the Federal Transit Administration requirements. Policy was last amended in 2021, and so that we asked our third-party administrator, Drug-Free Workplaces, to review our existing policy. With their input and county legal's review, we revised the policy and bring that to you today. Our intention, I'll go over a couple of highlights, but mainly transparency for our employees. We're going to work with IT to bring that to the employees in electronic format so that they can acknowledge the policy. Some highlights of the policy are to specifically address CBD products, caution employees about using CBD products. Our test only tests for marijuana, not for CBD, but just making them aware that the FDA does not certify the THC levels in CBD products, and therefore there's no federal oversight. In addition to that, just wanting to clarify that while medical marijuana is legal in the state of Florida, it remains an illegal Schedule I controlled substance under federal law. Okaloosa County receives federal funds, and therefore we comply with the Drug-Free Workplace Act, where the use of marijuana, including medical marijuana, is prohibited with all county employees. There are other minor changes and updates to procedures as they saw fit.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Commissioners?
Great work as usual, Ms. Bird. I can't say enough about you since you've taken the HR department. So with that, I'll move the updated revised language to the Human Resources Policy Manual.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchel, a second by Commissioner Palmer. Any further discussion? Commissioner Goodwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate the indulgence with the microphone today. So hopefully this will be my last, but I'm support. I'll vote in favor. But a couple of things. One was I read this. Frankly, I was surprised at the issue with the CBD, and I guess there's a warning embedded in the policy to employees that if I'm reading this correctly, and help me understand if you would, Kelly. I mean, literally, there's stuff on the shelf in the arthritis and joint pain section at Walgreens or CVS or the Walmart pharmacy or what have you that could trigger a failed drug test.
That is correct. And we don't want an employee who uses those products to test positive on a test where, they're really not doing anything wrong in their eyes. And we're not able to tell the difference, whether it's a CBD product they've taken or if it's actually marijuana that they're using.
Well, to me, that's a big issue. And until the science is there, and I think we should definitely go out and try to figure out if the science is there to be able to differentiate. It sounds like it's not. We're going to have to do more than put this in this policy. We're going to need to get with PIO, and we're going to need to put something together that educates people properly, because it would be absolutely a travesty to have somebody simply grab the thing that's next to the aspirin cream because their joints are hurting because they've been working all day, and now they get a random drug test because somebody bumped them in a little fender bender at traffic, and I think that triggers a drug test. Now they fail and they've never done anything wrong.
You are correct, and that's why we wanted to be transparent with this, so that employees are aware of that before they get into a bind with it. And it's not enough for us just to bring it to the board, but to make sure that every employee sees the updates, the highlights to it. And IT does a great job with us when we have a policy of bringing the specific highlights into an electronic format that'll bring it up, and they have to acknowledge those things. We can do further education through our wellness program too.
Yeah, we got to do a lot more than that, because it's not enough to say, did you read this or not? I mean, we all get the things on our phones, click here, I agreed to an 800-page contract before I can buy this one little product or something. That's not enough, because you're going to catch a well-meaning person who's never smoked a joint in their entire life, and it's going to happen, and it's going to be the wrong result because we don't have the science to do it right. So I really think It looks harmless. It's literally on the shelf at the Publix pharmacy. It's not, it does, it's not restricted as far as I can tell. And it's not harmful. And I just want to make sure that, I've never used the stuff, but I have talked to a lot of people that do. And I would just want to make sure that we need to warn people more than putting it in this manual. I read the manual, and it's written very well. But most people are not going to sit there and digest exactly what this means. I think we need to put it together in more interactive type format. I'm sure we can work with Nick. I bet Nick has some ideas how you could do that to help people understand this is what this means in a very quick way that catches people's attention, because we really should let people know that. And there's probably this stuff in products they don't even realize.
We work with Nick, and in addition, we do some drug-free workplaces training with our managers that is actually an in-person training. And so we'll certainly incorporate that in that training also.
So, and I'd love to hear back just, and it could be informally, kind of, but if we're going to adopt this today, which I think we are, because I can count the first, second at myself, and that's enough right there. And I think you'll get unanimous support. But since it's going to go forward, I'd really like to hear back about that sooner rather than later. Because again, that caught my attention in a significant way that somebody could inadvertently get caught into that. So anyway, no, I appreciate that. And as I read this, this is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So, to me, this policy applies to this board as much as it applies to the people that work here. I know it's got, the testing provisions, which have always been there. I understand that. But, I know sometimes that puts people off, but, I'll just go on the record and say you can test me anytime you want to. And what you'll find is way too much caffeine. So, as you can tell. So.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Palmer.
So I just have a quick question. Has this been the risk of CBD itself been previously communicated among employees with the county?
It has not.
Okay.
It has not. We do try for our generalists when they onboard, like the specific addressing of medical marijuana was not in the previous policy. But on onboarding, we have been trying to communicate it there. And I have checked with some employees and they do have that clear message, newer employees, but no, it has not been communicated.
Okay, so thank you for that. I did read through this, and for me, working in the federal government, it's or with the federal government, this has been for years. We've known this, and we've known the risk of CBD, and we've known the risk of anything having to do with medicinal marijuana and all of that stuff. So I'm a little bit actually now I'm a little bit hesitant in implementing this immediately, given that has not been communicated with county employees. So that's one thing that I would be concerned with is if we do vote on this, it becomes policy today. And now employees are bound to something that has not been previously communicated. And so do we know, and I don't think anybody here will know, but do we know how, whether the THC that's resident in the CBD products, whether it, how long it lasts with it in their system and what sort of what restrictions are we putting on employees? So if we have an employee today, we vote on this today, we have an employee that gets into a fender bender that's been using CBD products and it wasn't previously a part of our policy. How do we handle that? Is there Lynn, is there any sort of grace period or whatever that would be? And I know that we can, I don't think we can answer this, right? Because you can't even tell where the THC came from. So that's my concern.
Is it palatable for a 60-day rollout period of education and then impact? Yes, we have a motion and a second. So I'm just speaking to that within comments. Commissioner Ketchel.
So correct me if I'm wrong, having worked for the federal government and home health care, we often were drug tested. There were things we were cautioned about in terms of substances before we were tested. Is there anything like this currently in policy?
Yes, we comply with the act and that employees are given a list of substances that we test for at onboarding. In addition to employees being aware of the current policy. So they are aware that we test for marijuana, but that may or may not mean the same things to them with the CBD.
We just need to make the policy clear. I think everybody here wants our employees to do well and not to run into this. So maybe like Chairman just suggested, a
And
60-day
I'm-
delay where we educate our employees.
We do have a FTA audit coming up in December. So I was hoping to have a new policy in. I have provided the auditors both policies, both the old and the new proposed. So I'm sure that will suffice, even if the board doesn't adopt it today, but just for transparency, letting you know that that's out
So
there.
the suggestion for the amendment was to adopt it today with an effective date of the policy, but work with Mr. Tomercheck to have 60 days to be sure that the staff is educated enough to know the process.
Okay.
So that would be adoption effective today, but enforcement would begin after 60 days.
Okay.
Is that suitable for an amendment to the motion?
Commissioner Fuller suggests January 1st. Is that agreed?
We have a motion and a second on the table. So Commissioner Ketchel, you made the motion.
Yes.
Let us know.
Acceptable for me.
Okay.
Perfect.
Do you want the date certain of January 1st?
Or we could say January 15th. I don't care. I mean, January, you pick it, Ms. Bird. What do you think?
Ms. Berg, what's suitable?
I certainly believe we can get that communication out in time. So, if we're
We'll
going
get
to delay
immediately on
enforcement,
this.
I would not suggest past January 1st.
Okay.
Simply
January
because of
1st.
the federal grant implications involved in
Right,
this.
right, right.
Great,
Okay,
but we
then.
have a date certain for the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Palmer, okay? So we have an amendment for the first and the second. A lot of additional comment, which has been very fruitful. Any further additional comment? All right, all in favor, signify with aye. Passes unanimously. Yes, ma'am. Here he is. Mr. Parker.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and welcome aboard, Commissioner Cox and Commissioner Palmer. Tyrone Parker with the Transit Division have one item for consideration this morning. The Transit Department is requesting a 6th contract amendment and final option year to the MV Transportation contract. This contract amendment covers a 12-month period from January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. And will allow for a continuing of transportation services within Okaloosa County and its surrounding area. The Transit Department and MV Transportation are entering its 7th year of transit partnership that began in December 2018. This contract agreement has included amendments to address the impacts of COVID-19, analysis addressing local wages, and reduction in annual service hours. During the calendar year 2025, the Transit Department will coordinate its efforts with the Deputy County Administrator, the Purchasing Department, and County Legal to begin procurement process for transportation management services with selected and successful transportation management contractor beginning effective January 1st, 2026. In closing, Transit recommends moving to approve the 6th contract amendment and final option year with MV Transportation contract, allowing for continuing transportation services within Okaloosa County and its service area, covering a 12-month period from January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. And I'll be glad to entertain any questions or comments in regards to this agenda item.
Commissioner Ketchum.
I'll move for approval. When I get a second, there's a few things I'd like to say.
Yes. A second. Second by Commissioner
So
Palmer.
I just want to, because we can't talk to each other off the dais, for the new commissioners, I'd like to say, first of all, Mr. Parker has brought us a wonderful transportation system. When you started here is when everything changed, and we have been hugely successful, and I cannot thank you enough for your work and the professionalism you bring. Our buses run so well. We always get compliments, and it's just been a privilege to work with you, and thank you for bringing this forward. And plus, I think transportation used to be a couple $100,000 out of our budget. Now it's around, is it right? 85,000, Mr. Hofstad, about that?
86,000. Yes, sir.
86,000, which for a public transportation system, that's, wonderful. So thank you for all that you do, Mr. Parker.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Great. Thank you. At this time, we'll take the final public comment. We have one speaker card, Kim Du. Morning. That's it.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here and I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to sneak in the final public comment. My name is Kim Do, and I'm a affordable attainable housing developer. Just recently I teamed up with a bigger, much more seasoned team, and we applied for funding, and we have just won funding under the Live Local Act under the category housing near military installation. So we will build a brand new apartment in Pensacola near NAS, 120 units. So I'm thrilled to have that under our belt, and I understand Okaloosa is the board had been negotiating with the military to transfer some land, about 200 acres, and some of those are orphaned parcels, not necessary for the mission. So we would love to be part of that. And so I would like to just applaud the efforts that you have been doing, and hopefully that we can fast track the land transfer. But I would like to also thank you in advance for your support, either for my team or any other developers that would help in this affordable workforce housing, especially for the military, to give your additional support in land use, including the upzoning, potential upzoning in some areas, and also parking and other issues that if we have your support, that would push a lot of things through much faster than the regular permitting process. So I would love to be part of maybe 500 new units in next year, and more, and maybe a few thousands in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner's Minute, we'll begin with Commissioner Goodwin.
Nothing further. Thank you, Chairman. Other than to say, pleasure to work with Commissioner Palmer and Commissioner Cox.
Commissioner Ketchel.
Also, I echo that. It's nice to have another woman up here. Of course, Lynn and I have good partnership too, but it's a great, Ms. Hoshihara. It is great to have both of you here. I'm just excited to have both of you. I just wanted to mention that I've been really blessed to be going throughout the state of Florida, I guess, talking about the women's veterans monuments. I've been getting, every time I go somewhere, I get additional speaking. So I was in Orlando last week, and I'm going to Tampa to speak about it. This is really getting a lot of traction. I'm very excited about it. People have found out about this beautiful park, how we're preserving the land and the wildlife there, as well as the additional statues. And I've been floating this idea, and I'm going to say it out here, of putting, we used to have the Green Knight. Do you all remember the Green Knight? Does everybody remember the Green Knight? Okay, that was out on the, and it was a landmark. So we've been talking about what can we do to have everybody focus that there's a actual women's park there, because they miss it, the convention center, the sign, even though Jennifer's done a great job with that. So we've been thinking about putting a large statue of Rosie the Riveter. She did all the bullets and everything, pointing, that Rosie Riveter to that location. So just floating that idea, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm just really glad to be representing Okaloosa County all over the state of Florida, and hope that we're going to start getting some national press on this park. Thank you.
I'm so glad it wasn't the Green Knight that you wanted to put on there. You had me for a moment.
I just thought Rosie the Riveter could become quite the landmark, because we actually have 15 to 18, some of them may have passed, Rosie the Riveters who actually live here, some at the Air Force Enlisted Village. And, they're iconic. And even though they didn't get paid for their service, just saying.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Palmer.
Thank you, Chairman. So I just want to say how excited I am to be here. Thank you guys so much. I'm humbled to be joining such a board that has put the county in such a position. I mean, we are just, it's the jewel in the crown of Northwest Florida. So thank you guys for allowing me to serve, and I look forward to working with the county employees as well. And I've been so impressed through the transition process, John and all of the department heads and everybody that's met with me and kind of put up with my dumb questions. I appreciate that. I'm new. I'm still going to ask dumb questions, and that's kind of my superpower. So, anyways, I'm excited to join the board. Thank you guys again for having me. Thank you,
Commissioner Cox.
Thank you, Chairman.
I too just want to thank you guys for voting for me, for choosing me to serve District 3, a very large district in this county. It has not escaped me that it contains several municipalities, not just where we live in Baker, but Mary Esther, Niceville, Valparaiso, et cetera. I thank the county for being as welcoming as they have been. I have met with some of you numerous times. Everybody willing and able and tolerant of it, like Drew said, asking the questions in some cases, for me, asking those same questions over and over to make sure that I digest fully, both sides of every argument. I really appreciate the welcome. I'm happy to serve you. If you have any questions, definitely reach out. Thank you.
Great. A couple of things. I'm thankful that both of you are here. Commissioner Palmer, you have much to move in and put on the walls because Ponder kept that office full.
Until like yesterday.
Right. I walked in today and it was empty. It was hard to believe. Commissioner Cox, Nathan did not keep much in the office, so I look forward to seeing what you do with yours. It should be a great season moving forward. I believe we have a great team, and I'm excited about what the future holds. Chief Wagner, thank you for being here. Councilman Smith, glad that you're here with us as well. The two of you should explore. Sorry, this is the only time that I can say these type things, but the two of you should explore the TPO. Four Shoes have just left the TPO, and I'm hoping that you're for jump into that. So it's great to be a part of it. It is very important for our voice to be heard as Okaloosa County because we're in a joint TPO with another county, and so Commissioner Ketchel and I are there serving, and sometimes we just need to be sure that our voice is heard because really that's a great funding source that drives a large train. Commissioner Ketchel.
Yeah, I want to echo that because we need 4 out of our 5 commissioners on that. For a long time, Okaloosa County didn't participate. That was before I was on the board as much as they should have. And Walton got most of the money. We are the largest county on there. We deserve to get our fair share. If you have to miss a meeting, don't miss that meeting. Miss this meeting, but don't miss that meeting. That's how important it is. We must get that money. And we need everybody in their seats to fight for that because sometimes it comes down to one vote. Really key. And Mayor Witten left, but he's on that as well. And he's a great member.
And we came to a gentleman's agreement of the board last year and began alternating the chair via county. And so this year, a member from Walton County is the chair.
So.
Last year, it was Commissioner Boyles, and now I believe it's
Isn't it Bobby Wagner? I think he
I
got.
thought it was Valley.
I don't know. Valley.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Look at that. I believe it went to him in Defuniak, but we'll have to look. Either way, it's a very important balance that we keep because there are
Definitely.
there's a lot of dollars at stake there, and we have great partners to our east. So nothing derogatory to them. It's just important with our mission essential traffic count and our tourism traffic count and our retirees, and so we need to stay in the forefront with that. So just to get that word out. That is all I had. Meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.
don't want to. No. Chloe. Annabelle. I know. That's a volume.